Okay, we're at 11 o'clock. Let's get started. Thank you all for being here today. On behalf of Smart Dolphins, I'd like to welcome you to today's ChatGPT training event. My name is Aria. I am the Business Technology Advisor here at Smart Dolphins. I'm based in Coquitlam, BC, and a member of our growing team here in Greater Vancouver. Now, we're on a journey to become BC's preferred IT partner after 24 years of managing IT and partnering with small and medium businesses on Vancouver Island. Now, before jumping in, I'd like to quickly share some information on our upcoming events. We've got Cybersecurity Critical Fundamentals, Thursday, June 27th at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. SharePoint and Teams, Intranet and Teams Pages, Thursday, July 11th at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. Microsoft Teams Meetings, What's New, Thursday, July 18th at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. Please visit our website to register today. Now, if you have any questions during today's session, please type them into the chat and we'll do our best to address them as we go along. Otherwise, we'll also save some time for them at the end of the session and for some discussion together. Please feel free also to download the handout from the chat to follow along with today's session. And with that, I'd like to introduce Jolynn, our trainer for today's presentation. It is a great pleasure to welcome Jolynn Reen. Jolynn stands out as a Microsoft Master Trainer and Instructor, having over 30 years of experience. Thank you for joining us today. And please take it away, Jolynn.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Aria. So welcome everybody to our session today on what's new with ChatGPT. I have to say that I struggled to shorten the handout as much as I possibly could because there has been so many things that are new with ChatGPT. And one of them is going to be the latest update, I should say, of ChatGPT itself. So let me share my ChatGPT screen here. And if you go ahead and download the practice file, the handout, that will give you some more information about what it is that I'm talking about through the session today. But starting out first, I just want to mention what exactly is ChatGPT. So if you haven't heard of it yet, which it is even in commercials these days. I see it, I hear about it all over the place. And as we were chatting before we started today, I was even talking about the fact that I was having our server at a restaurant use ChatGPT the other day. So I talk about ChatGPT with everybody. And I am amazed because I always ask them if they say, well, I was in ChatGPT, and it's like, I always ask, how are you using ChatGPT? Are you paying for it? Are you using your work enterprise version? I try and ask them questions to kind of see, based on what I hear on the internet, based on real life, how do they really match up? So basically, ChatGPT is a chatting tool that we have through AI. It's part of our open AI. And it's a generative pre-trained transformer, which is the GPT part of it. So kind of focusing on just that GPT, when we talk about pre-trained transformers, there are built-in additional GPTs that can be added into ChatGPT. So I will mention those as well today. So really kind of think about generative pre-trained transformer. It's transforming what we actually chat about to produce based on pre-trained information. It produces a result. And the result that we get is a human-like response. And you are going to be shocked in the next month as to what we mean by human-like response. I'll briefly be mentioning that today. Now, of course, ChatGPT is where we can go and we can say, what is the latest information on this topic? How do I write a letter? How do I do this? We use what are referred to as prompts so the chat is we're typing in a prompt, and whatever our prompt is, we get a result. But with the latest and greatest versions of ChatGPT, first, let's talk about some things that have changed. One of the big things that has already changed is how you access ChatGPT. So we access ChatGPT by going to a website. We used to go to OpenAI. It was ChatGPT OpenAI. I'm sorry, I keep clicking on the wrong icon there. But now you can see on my browser, we now access it by going to chatgpt.com. Now, I'm not real sure. I've read stories on the internet as to why there's this change. I think somebody else owned chatgpt.com, so they had to buy it out from the person. Now we could use chatgpt.com as a web address. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I read on the internet. So it may not be true. But I do want to talk about, what has happened lately. And when I say lately, there's been major changes that have happened within the past month with ChatGPT. One of them is what you're seeing on my screen right now. So if you are a ChatGPT user, you can have a free version. You can sign up for a free version of ChatGPT. You can have a paid for version, which is called a plus version. If you pay $20 a month, there is also an enterprise version that is bundled and by users, that is more for corporations to purchase, to have multiple people have licenses. So any business really can get the enterprise. I do not have the enterprise. The enterprise does have additional features that I do not have access to. But we are going to get into another paid for version today. A little bit later in the session, we'll get into the team part of using ChatGPT. So many things, so many options, depending on what your need is. So I have the plus version for my account, but there's changes to the user interface that I want to talk about before we dive into new models, what exactly that means and what exactly has happened within the past few weeks. And some of these changes, by the way, are not 100% released. So some of the features aren't available on my computer yet. Hopefully I'll have those in the next few days or the next week or so, but when they send out updates, they send them out in groups. I don't know for sure how those groups are established, how they determine who's going to get the updates first. I'm sure it's based on some type of an algorithm, but I'm not sure. I've never investigated it because I don't really care. I want to care about how to use it, how to best take advantage of the application itself. So first off, there's some changes to the user interface that I want to talk about. So in the previous versions of ChatGPT, we had the navigation pane on the left-hand side. There's been some redesign and some new features added and moved from that navigation pane on the left. So first off, at the top left, you're going to see where you can actually minimize over the sidebar. The sidebar, we don't have to see it if we're not using it. You could click the icon to bring it back. Also, you have the icon for new chat. These we've had for a little bit, for a few months already, since the beginning of this year. Okay. But we also have right underneath that ChatGPT versus the Explore GPTs. I'm going to come back and talk a little bit more about that. Then, of course, just like it always has done, it groups together the topics that you've chatted with ChatGPT based on today, based on yesterday, based on previous months, etc. You can see this history of chatting. Or can you? There's a new feature we'll talk about. So anyway, this is all basically public information that ChatGPT can use as we are searching for different things we're prompting. ChatGPT can actually gather that information and improve itself based on responses and different things. So it uses our conversations to help build better. Just so you know, it does that. It always has. But there is a new feature with that I'll get to. Now, notice on the left-hand side, when I'm scrolling down, I'm really just scrolling my history of my chats. Okay, that's all I'm doing is scrolling the history of my chats. At the bottom left, we used to have our profile. Now you're just going to see, for me, I have add team workspace, which I can click on and go into upgrade my plan. Well, I've actually already upgraded it, but you will see that as well because they want you to start using this new team version. We'll get to that a little bit later in the session. But for right now, I'm going to go to the top right. So major changes. So they wanted to make things more simple, more consistent with other applications as well. So you'll notice in the middle of the window is less cluttered. It's not as cluttered as it used to be. It has same features, better features, but it's not as busy as it used to be. We used to have a big menu up at the top. We had a lot of icons down at the bottom. We don't see all of that anymore. And the profile at the top right is where you access your account. So just to show you what I mean by that, if I go to my profile circle, which is universal in all applications for Microsoft, you go to your profile circle at the top right of whatever you're in, and you'll see different choices. My choices are going to be different than your choices. Mine might say things different than yours because I do have the team portion to ChatGPT, which we'll get to. But so you could see, I could switch accounts. Just like in Microsoft Teams, you can switch accounts. So we can do that here with ChatGPT as well. So a lot of this integration is very similar to what we do with Microsoft apps. So I'm super excited about that because you learn it in one place, it works the same in other places. So what you're going to see though is access to my plan. So of course that's going to give you your plan information. It also is going to give you access to my GPTs, which is going to be related to the GPTs that we can be managing, which means we can create and add GPTs for us to use during ChatGPT when we're using ChatGPT. I'm going to explain those a little bit better here in a minute. But I'm going to go back to this drop down for a second. Customize ChatGPT is where you now go to do your customizations for your instruction. So up at the top, it has, what would you like ChatGPT to know about you to provide better responses? This is highly recommended because the information that you put in here is going to be helpful for the system to know about you. It uses these features by default without us having to say, I want the tone of this to be a professional level. Mine already says it. How would you like ChatGPT to respond? It has professional level. But if you're not quite sure what you should do in each of these two boxes, these two questions, if I click where the top question is, what would you like ChatGPT to know about you for better responses? It gives you some thought starters. Or the bottom one, how would you like ChatGPT to respond? On the right-hand side, it's going to give you some thought starters. And then at the bottom, you can check or uncheck, which I wouldn't uncheck, but you can use browsing capabilities on the internet to help answer your questions. It can use the DALL-E 3 with images, which you definitely want to do. And it can use code. So it's got a code interpreter that is automatically built in. I keep all three of those checked because if I'm going to do an image or anything, I want it to use these tools. I also have enable for new chats. I'll show you what I mean by all of that. But I didn't really make any changes, so I'm going to click cancel. Now, on the left-hand side, I'm going to go back and click on ChatGPT so my window in the middle comes back to the main menu. Now, if I go back to the profile on the top right, just so you're aware of this, we have settings. So if you open the settings dialog box has changed and it has different features. we don't have the same features that we did before. We have some new things. So first is the general, where it can automatically detect language, but notice this archive chats information. I'll show you where you can go to archive chats, but you can actually go in and manage your archive chats. So we can have chats that are archived that are not taking up space on the left. I'll get in a little bit more to that here a little bit later, but just so you know, in the settings is where you can access managing the archives, or you can say you want to archive every chat you currently have in the navigation on the left-hand side. So that is different than deleting everything. If you delete all chats, they're going to be gone. You can't get them back. So you can, of course, still delete a single chat, or now you can archive a single chat so that you can come back to it later if you need to. But then, of course, it can automatically be deleted out of the archives if you want it to be. But we also have personalization. It's got some information here about memory. If we wanted to, so to understand what ChatGPT remembers or teach it something, just chat with, remember what I like concise response, that I like concise responses. I just got a puppy. What do you remember about me? We can actually have ChatGPT have some memory about the things that it is that we do. Now, it depends on which version you have, will determine this memory. Free version, we don't really get a lot of choices with memory. But just so you know, this is capable. We also have speech. Now, unfortunately, as of this moment, I do not have the voice capability with ChatGPT. I don't know if I'm like a person in between my updates. I don't know why I don't have it. I've asked ChatGPT, and I've gone to the internet and looked it up, and they're kind of sending this feature out in groups based on whatever their process is. But just so you know, when you or if you have the capability of chatting by talking with ChatGPT, you can use different voices for its response. So on the right-hand side, I have Cove right now. If I play, I just want to share how thrilled I am to work with you, and I can't wait to get started. So what's the game plan? Did you guys hear that? I don't know if my sound from my computer is turned on for you guys at all. But Aria, you need to check that one out because I think it sounds like you.
I heard it.
Did you? I
Yeah.
think it sounds like you. But anyway, just so you can see, if you go to that drop down, you can choose which voice you want it to use and then play it to get an example of what it sounds like. I don't like the breeze one. That's a little bit too much for me, but just so you can see, there's different options. Okay. I like Cove the best. So anyway, you can find which voice you want to be working with. There's some major enhancements, by the way, to the apps for ChatGPT as well. When you have the voice, just to kind of talk a little bit further about this, you're going to see that it actually is a black circle. When you go to talk with ChatGPT, it's going to be a black circle. The reason that they did that was because it's like the black hole where it's endless, because we can communicate endlessly with ChatGPT. So there's a lot of thought process in the background of how logos and different aspects of what we use are created. Like the logo for ChatGPT, that's actually an O with an A. It's you should look it up. It's kind of cool how all that works. But back into the settings dialog box with some other changes that we have. We have data controls is what this category is called now. This is where you would find improve the model for everyone, which if you click on it, you can get a little bit of description of this. We're going to be talking about models here in just a minute, but this is where you can manage your shared links. So if you share a chat with somebody else, by giving them a link, this would be an option for you to go in and manage those links that you shared. Also, we can export data or delete your account. If you decide you don't want to use ChatGPT, you could actually delete your account. Also, there's a profile builder. I don't have access to that right at the moment. I don't know why, but it's really related to um, really a connection with other apps, but I'll talk about connected apps. So when I say the word connected apps, I am connected to my OneDrive, my business OneDrive, not my personal. I don't use Google Drive, but I could connect to that as well. The benefit of connecting to these other services is that when you go to click the attachment icon at the bottom, it automatically can give you quick, easy access to Teams, to SharePoint, to OneDrive, etc. So connect your Microsoft account. By clicking connect, put in your username, password, and it will automatically connect. I love that feature. You also have security where you can have multi-factor in authentication. So anyway, settings have changed, been enhanced a little bit. They're now located at the top right, where I think they should have been anyway. So I'm actually very happy for that. But when it comes to ChatGPT, there is a new version. So when we first started with this class, it was months ago that we decided that we were going to do this class. Well, since then, the word turbo is not available for me because I am actually using the latest version ChatGPT 4.0. Well, it's a letter O, not a zero. It's the letter O, which stands for Omni, just so you know what it stands for. So at the top of this middle part of the window, at the top left of it, you can see where it says ChatGPT 4.0. If I click on that drop down, these are the different models that I have available. So this is the latest and greatest. So if you open up ChatGPT, it will ask you if you want to turn on the 4.0. If you slide the button over to saying yes, that you want it, you will have access to the latest. One of the biggest enhancements with this new 4.0 is it's available to the free version. So you don't have to have a paid for version to use it. Notice I do not have turbo anymore because 4.0 is turbo with enhancements. It's an update to turbo, just so you know. So I don't even see turbo anymore. But I still could go back to 4 or 3.5 if I wanted to. To be honest, I don't. I don't know why I would, because the 4.0 is going to give me the latest information, and I'll get into some of the other features with it, but it's much quicker and different things like that. But while I'm in this window, I want to talk about temporary chats. Temporary chats. So we now have the ability of using temporary chats, which, just so you know, it is in your handout on pages 11 and 12. So if I decide that the chats that I want to do right now are only going to be temporary, I slide that button to over to turn it on. Now I'm in temporary chat. So it lets you know this chat won't appear in history, use, or create memories. So it doesn't remember things or be used for training our models. So once again, when I was saying that ChatGPT uses what you've been searching with and uses that to improve the program, it won't do that with anything that you put in temporary. Just so you know, this is kind of a safe place to look things up. Okay. Notice the history on the left-hand side is all grayed out. So if I want to do something right now in temporary chat, it's only going to be here while I'm in temporary. It's not going to be here later on. So if I come in and ask it, how do I handle a conflict with a coworker? You know, you press enter like you normally would. So this information is not going to be available when I go back out to my normal ChatGPT. This is all private. I really like it. I like the fact that it's temporary. I don't have to worry about what I'm putting in here being, shared with ChatGPT, because one of the guidelines with ChatGPT best practices is we never put anything personal out there because of the fact that ChatGPT has access to all of that. So everything that I'm doing right now is only available right now. If I go back to my icon at the top left, where it currently says ChatGPT, this is called the models. This is called the models. I'll get to more meaning to this in a second, but if I go to the drop down for this, I can just slide that to no or slide it off, and I'm back into my normal history. I didn't even think that that was ever going to be something that would be capable of doing. I am super excited about that feature. I don't know if that will be beneficial for you, but I think it's great. And my coworkers, the people that I've been showing that to, all my clients, they have loved it. It is something that I think is very smart of ChatGPT to include. But let's kind of get back to what's going on with these versions of ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, as you saw from the drop down for the models, we still have the original one that was published right away when we first got ChatGPT. We started out with 3.0, but then we got 5.0, 3.5 right away. We still have, of course, the ChatGPT 4. Then we now have the 4 Omni. 5 is in the works, which we'll talk about at the end of our session today. But right now, this is going to be your latest version. There is the paid for version, as I had mentioned, where you can pay $20 a month to use it. The benefits of that is it gives you the latest updates all the time, and you have the latest version. But now this 4.0 is available if you don't have the paid for version. So it's going to have limited capability, though, just so you keep that in mind. The paid for version is worth the 20 a month, I think, anyway, because I utilize it so much. And I want to have advantage of everything. I don't want any delays. I don't want the lack of memory and things like that, which the free version, which I've got a little bit of information about the free version on page 4. Users of the free tier by default are using now the 4.0 version, but they have limited capabilities, as I said. So I did give you a little bit of instruction on that. Some of that is going to be the file upload capability, the number of messages you can do within a time period, different things like that. It doesn't have all the same bells and whistles as the paid for version. So we still should, if in my world, use the paid for version. But if you're an organization and you have, 20 people, you don't want to pay $20 a month for 20 people. So you can do the enterprise version. 50 license or more, though, I think is what it is. I forget, but the enterprise version is something that you may want to be checking out. So in your handout on page 6, it talks about the introduction of this new version, but it also gets into the, the plus and the enterprise version on pages 5 and 6, just so you know, the information is in your handout for those. So when we talk about, having these new versions and different ways to access them and use them, a personal account is the 20 a month. They call that plus. Enterprise is for organizations where they can buy bundles of users. And the enterprise does have more capability than a plus version does. I'm using the plus version, and right now I'm using the ChatGPT 4.0. As I said, the O stands for Omni. It has a lot of enhancements and new things that it's doing, and the list starts on page 6 of some of these enhancements. It uses what is referred to as a multi-model input and output. So the information that it's inputting and outputting, it is super fast. It is super fast. It uses by default, the performance of it really does match what we had with Turbo, but the way that it reads your data is quicker than what we had with Turbo. The vision and the audio responses that we can work with now are more enhanced. I read an article on how it used to work with the voice and how now it responds. If we were to ask ChatGPT something previous, it would take a while for it to recognize what we said and then to go back and analyze what we said. First to hear it and then to analyze it, then to respond to it. It was very slow on how it parsed everything. Now it's pretty much instant. I've been watching all these great videos that are out on the internet on people demonstrating it. And one person this was super cool. One person was demonstrating from two different phones. They were having a conversation back and forth. So then the guy put his phone and had himself sitting there ask the other phone with ChatGPT to describe what that person was seeing. It is amazing and kind of scary. When I started seeing all these different ways that the voice capabilities are going to be working, and with the images, it can describe what the image is representing, what the image is doing. And then we could even say, what just happened? Was there a change on that on my screen? And they had somebody come in and do bunny ears behind the person. And ChatGPT responded, yes. 2 seconds ago, a person entered the office and was doing bunny ears on the back of your head. I mean, it's amazing what that capability is going to be. Now, that is not 100% released yet, as I had mentioned when we first got started, but as soon as it is available, highly recommend checking it out. In the meantime, I would say definitely go to the internet and look at some of those videos of what you're going to have capable. And by the way, these are within the past month that they've been releasing these videos and starting to release these new features. So this 4.0 is a brand new release within the past few weeks, just so you're aware. Okay. Anyway, it's definitely got some different responses when we think about chatting with it. So we'll get to what that chatting, how it analyzes things and gives us different responses depending on if you're using 4 or you're using the 4.0. I always want to say 4.0. But before we get to that, the multi-model capabilities is a huge enhancement to ChatGPT. So a model is our smart assistant. It's got assistants all over the place. But you can see my description here. A model is like a version of a smart assistant, each with different levels of intelligence and capabilities. So basically, the multi-model that the ChatGPT 4.0 uses is image prompts. You can upload images and then, of course, prompt for what you wanted to give you out of that image, whether it's a video or a still image. It works with both. We could do photos, we could do screenshots, whatever. It also, of course, will have that full capability of voice prompts very quickly and easily, and it's AI generated voice coming back based on that person that voice that you could choose when I showed you in the settings. Okay, so it's got a lot of enhancements in that respect. If you look in your book on page 7, it talks about using, or the difference, I should say, of, the 4, the 4.0, the 3.0, and you can kind of see on this slide and in my book, in the handout, what are some of the enhancements that we had. The length of text, the average to long novel, that hasn't really changed since basically Turbo. It should have been from Turbo, but like the audio input, the voice capabilities, the speed of the responses, the accuracy of the information has been improved. A lot of improvements from going from 3.5 up to where we are today. Tons of improvements. So just to kind of little side-by-side comparisons of, of Chat GPT 4 versus 4.0, you can see that some of them, like the accuracy high for text tests, more precise, detailed, and efficient when it comes to working in the text. It doesn't give you as many mistakes in the information when it responds. Half the price of GPT Turbo on the standard costing. That cost is not your cost that it's referring to. It's the overall cost of generating and building ChatGPT in the background. It still has the same language number. How many languages does it translate? But you could see under the capabilities, we had text generation and understanding under the 4 version, multi-model input handling now, where it is more, it's increased its capabilities with the images and other capabilities, video, audio, the understanding of what it is that we're asking it, the parsing that it does. It groups the words together more than it ever used to. It used to be single word. Now it actually groups words together more and groups sentences, groups paragraphs, and can understand all of that. It is amazing what goes on in the background of this. I don't even understand all of it. It is pretty crazy what it does. But this is also in your handout on page 8, just so you know, if you want to kind of look through this a little bit more. But I want to get into some prompt differences. So starting on page 9, some examples of prompts that we can do in 4 versus what would be the response if we do it in 4.0. I do have an example where on the left-hand side of my history, I have this chat that I did earlier today that was, I had asked, let me kind of go back up to the top. I had asked in 4.0, what is the best way to welcome a new customer? And it gave me this information. And it doesn't say, I forget what the 4.0 gave us right away. Certainly. It always said certainly at the top. It doesn't say certainly anymore, so we don't see that. So there's been some enhancements in the response that we get. But you could see that it gave 6 different things, and then it also shows an example of a welcome message. So here's an example of what it could look like. Now, of course, we can further that conversation as needed. So we can always go back and ask it more questions related to that first question. That's all the prompting capabilities that we've had. But if I go to the left-hand side and I click on effective ways to welcome, this changed back to the ChatGPT 4. So it knows which version, which model I used when I chatted. So this one I did in 4 and asked the same question. What is the best way to welcome a new customer? This proves to me that I don't want to use 4 anymore. There's no reason for me to go back to 4. I'm going to stick with 4.0 because yes, this came back with welcoming a new customer, personalized welcome message, welcome packet, onboard processing, customer support. It gave us 7 responses instead of 6 responses, but it didn't provide an example or anything automatically. Where the other one, and once again, if I go back and click on the one from 4.0, it switches me back to 4.0. And that actually, the formatting and stuff is different. It's actually easier for me to read this and understand what it is that it provided. And I like the capability of having that welcome message, that example of a welcome message. So just so you could see a little bit of a difference in what exactly is it doing. So I gave you some examples that you could actually be using. I'm going to go to number 3 and just do an example of this one. And I'm going to use 4.0. I'm sorry, 4. I'm going to start out in just Chat GPT 4. I'm going to put in my prompt of drafted executive summary for a quarterly business performance report highlighting key achievements, challenges, and future strategies. And I would encourage you to do that in yours as well. So it's going to give me the overview. It's got key improvement achievements, I should say, challenges, future strategies, and then it's giving us a conclusion. If I switch over, And here's a summary. If I switch over and do that same thing in ChatGPT 4.0, it will give us different style of response. Some of it might have similar aspects on how it responds because it was trained to give, certain responses and they didn't change that, but it enhances what it is that it's bringing back, and it's more related to today, because it is updated more for today than it was from, what was the old one again? I forget, March of 2023 or something like that. So anyway, you can see that it does have different layout to it. Here's that one. So as I kind of go back and look at these, by the way, I should have saved a copy of that so you could see. Let me tell you one other thing that it's actually doing. Let me actually do a new chat here. So on the left-hand side, you can see that it's actually showing it's basically doing a list of everything that I recently did, but it's technically not in the order I did them. Let me show you what I mean. So here I had this fire extinguisher image. I came in and said, generate an image of how to use a fire extinguisher. And I did it with ChatGPT 4.0. Here's an image of a fire extinguisher that I did in 4 Turbo. So very different on how the graphic came out now versus how the graphic looked before. So they've enhanced, this is a lot more 3D going into 4D capability than we had with a image that we did in the previous versions. So definite enhancements. But I'll come back and do a couple more prompts here in a moment. But I wanted, so in case we run out of time, I wanted to show you the file capability. So I'm going to start a new chat. And we still get suggestions. So in the middle, you're going to see suggestions. And by the way, these suggestions do change. Based on your usage and different things, they will start to change. I haven't done a lot with the 4.0 since it came out because I've been using Copilot, which I'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm still using this, but it will eventually start to change the suggestions that I'm getting. So these are suggested searches right here. But down at the bottom where we do the chatting, notice it's much cleaner. We don't have a bunch of icons like we used to, but if you wanted to analyze a file, click the attachment tab. If you are connected to your account, whether it's Google, your Microsoft account, whatever, I'm connected for my account. So now I can actually do more than just upload from my computer, which is all we could do before. Now I can go straight to my OneDrive. If I click on my OneDrive, I can see on the left-hand side, I also could access my SharePoint document libraries. I can access Teams, my Microsoft Teams document libraries. Otherwise, I'm actually in OneDrive. I can search, which is fantastic. So I could go up to the top and just start searching. So let me see if it will find this file for me. Oops, maybe I didn't name it that. I think maybe I had it named this. Okay. Earlier today, it found it. There it is. It was a little slow right now. Sorry about that. But I'm going to go ahead and insert this attachment, this file, because of course it can analyze data coming from your file. So, and by the way that it reads it now, I don't know if you've used this in the past, but what it used to do was download all the information in the chat. It doesn't do that anymore. It keeps the attachment there and it's reading it right from the attachment. But now I can actually ask questions about it. So I could say how many orders were placed in the USA. So it can go out and analyze my spreadsheet that I had attached and tell me how many people, or how much information, whatever the questions are that I ask of it. So you could see that it's analyzing it, it's telling us. So I asked how many orders were placed in the USA. So it's analyzing that data. And this is thousands of rows of information. So, depending on what it is, it does take a minute. So 352 orders in the USA. How many orders for Janet? I forget who the sales lever. So I can continue to have it analyze data. It can actually go in a little bit further and it could create, I'll show you. Let me show you an example here. Create a chart for orders placed in the country Canada for salesperson. It's one word. Salesperson Janet Lever. Oops, I got to spell things correctly or it won't understand what I'm doing. So we can give it the prompt. And of course, the better the prompt, the better the response you will get back out of it. I didn't tell it what kind of chart to create. Sometimes, just so you know, if you don't give it enough, it can come back and ask you further information or let you know that it doesn't have enough information to generate a response. So it's actually smart enough to come back and say, "Ooh, I don't know." I wish all people would do that instead of guessing or, giving us a wrong answer. But it did automatically create a chart based on the information that I had provided to it. So it has definitely become a very enhanced tool that we can be using to, do just about anything we need. Because what if I needed to write a summary based on the orders for Canada from salesperson. The more you give it, the more it will remember or recognize. For salesperson, Janet Everline. So it's unbelievable. And I could have said, based on the products, I just want to focus on which product she sold, and what were the quantities that were sold based on a specific product. Anything can be analyzed once you have that file attached. Create an image of Canada and the salesperson, Janet. I didn't give it a lot of information about what type of an image that I wanted to do, but keep in the backs of your minds that when I ask it to do an image or create a logo, it's using the enhanced tools that in the past it did okay, but it wasn't great. That actually came out really nice. Haley, that kind of looks like you. So kind of cool how we can have it do that. It's even got the Space Needle in the back. But anyway, just so you could see, it's not the Space Needle, I guess, but just so you could see that it's automatically capable of doing way beyond. And we can, of course, say, I want to change the background to include this. I want to have this added into the image. Whatever changes it is that you want to make, you're still going to be able to do all of that. We could do that with the 4 or the turbo. 4 wasn't very good at all, but the 4.0 or the 4 turbo was pretty good. It's even better now. I didn't know that it could get better than that, but it is using the DALL-E 3 capabilities automatically. But what if you wanted to use enhancements from other GPTs? Because I'm going to be analyzing some different information and I want to take advantage of some other GPTs. If you go to the top left, click on Explore GPTs. This has been enhanced as well. And AI as an organization has really kind of taken this further in what it's allowing to become a GPT available for everyone's use. So this is like a store. So we have the Microsoft store that we can go and get enhancements. I have a countdown timer that I use in PowerPoint, which is coming from the Microsoft store. So these are like add-in apps that we can utilize directly through ChatGPT. So they became more picky on which ones they're including, and they've added a bunch more. So you can see that there is a top picks. It's got some featured GPTs, which, by the way, you can program your own GPT and use it yourself, share it with your team members, etc. But just so you could see all these GPTs that are available. DALL-E 3, I don't have to turn that GPT on because it's already on for me. But otherwise, I could go into productivity category. You can jump to the category that you want to go to. Research. If you use any of these, like if I add in the math tool, the math tool can help me to put together a math equation. So each of these is in addition to the tools you get with your model, the ChatGPT 4.0, you can use this to help enhance the responses you get back out. So I just wanted to come back and mention those GPTs because they are becoming more and more commonly used. Okay. But for our last few minutes, I want to actually talk about using ChatGPT team workspaces. So at the bottom of page 13, going to page 14 and quite a few pages after that, it talks about using ChatGPT team workspace. This is a paid for version. If you go to the bottom left and click add team workspace, you can see the plus version on the left, and here's the team version where it states $25 a month, which is not always true because you have to have a minimum of 2 users. So it'd be $50 a month. But if you're going to pay month to month, it's $30 a month. Therefore, $60 for 2 people. But you can see that down at the bottom, need more capabilities. You could go into your ChatGPT enterprise version and there's bundles you could buy. So why do you even want to have the team version? I'm going to go back to my main menu here. I'm going to go to a new chat. I'm going to go to my profile at the top right. And I'm going to click on the name of my company. Notice this icon. It isn't my profile circle. I'm going to click that. This is my team account. Now, this is one that I just created based on this account just to show you here today. I can't personally show you mine because it's confidential, some confidential things going on in there with clients, so I can't do that. But basically what this is a way that you can work with a group of people in ChatGPT. So an example of that is I have a project going on with a client. So we created a team, and it's the client name, the name of the project kind of a thing. And in that workspace, we are working together. I have members, which we can manage. And I gave you some information about this, inviting members, different things like that are in your handout. I can go straight to the bottom left of the screen and click invite members to add additional members. You can see that you can have a lot of members, so you can bring it in, import it as a CSV file so that you can bring them in based on what their role is. So are they going to be a member, an administrator, or an owner? So there's 3 different roles when it comes to working in these teams, so that you could add a group of people in together and it can automatically set them up based on the role you want them to have. But they all have to have a paid account to be able to come in. That's where enterprise is a great option. Then it would email them the invitation and they would accept the invitation. Then they can open the workspace as well. And we can have different people in different workspaces. So if I have one project that I'm going to be working on with other people, this is where we're going to go to collaborate together. We're going to use ChatGPT to help us build things. So creating a workspace, you really just are going to give it a name. And that name should be representative of what you're going to be using it for. So whatever project you're using it for, whatever group of people you're going to use it for. I have a company that is using a workspace for their accounting department because they're excuse me, changing the way, because they're growing and they're changing the way that they're processing invoices and all different things. They're going back through all their policies and procedures. So they're using a workspace for shared collaboration of all of these chats. The chats are all being shared together. So any of the graphics that they create and images that they create, they all have access to. Now, back in regular ChatGPT, my personal account, can I share a chat? Absolutely. You can share an individual chat, but I'd have to do that with every single one of them. And where am I putting it? Are they all going to go to one central location, or am I just emailing it to them? This is an actual workspace environment. I have to say, I can't demonstrate some things because something is wrong with my account. So I need to actually go talk to them. I did reboot my computer right before class to see if I could get some features back, because I had them and then they disappeared. So I got to find out what's going on. But if I go back to my profile circle at the top left, or top right, sorry, I can go into manage workspace. I didn't even have that this morning. But at least I got that back. Where on the left-hand side, I do have different settings. I have billing information. I have GPTs that can be shared with this workspace. So if we all need the enhancement of this particular GPT, everybody's going to have it. We don't have to individually be adding them in a like we do in a personal account. We can invite it in additional members, unless they accept being a part of this, you're going to have pending invites. So once they accept the invitation, they become a member. So like I just have 2 members. And on the right-hand side, I could change the person to be an admin or an owner. So if I have a lot of people, I'm going to put it in a Excel spreadsheet and upload it instead. Okay, just so you kind of think about that. But this is going to be a great place to be able to do live collaboration with your coworkers. I gave you tons of information in your handout about that. You know, what is a workspace? How are they created? Um, can members see what each other are chatting about? Yes, by default, they do. But you can have private conversations as well. But it keeps track of, and by the way, we could do folders and different things if you're using the enterprise version. So we could have a folder of here's all the chats related to this, name the folder. So it can organize everything as well. I don't have that capability because I'm not on an enterprise version, but for those of you that will be, this will be a great tool. So I always get asked, what is the difference between ChatGPT versus Copilot? So in your handout on page 18, I gave you a little bit of that information. We have, this is a tool logging into your account online. We have Microsoft Copilot, which also is an AI powered tool. They have a lot of similarities on what exactly it is that they do. They both use this large language model, that kind of thing. ChatGPT is using a API and applications, where Copilot is generated through programs like Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, etc. So it's a little bit different on programmed language versus these are applications that are already available, but they have a lot of similarities to each other. And then lastly, I could spend another 5 hours talking about all this new stuff and how things work. But lastly, ChatGPT 5 is coming. They don't have a release date just yet, but I do have a little bit of detail on the page 18 and page 19 in your handout. Okay. The timeline is end of the year. You know, you never know, but it's supposed to be out the end of the year. So it's going to take everything that we have today and enhance it. But like I said, everything's not even out yet for what we currently are having. So I have 4.0, but I don't have all the capabilities yet. That's coming. So I know they're releasing it and it's a slow release, but so eventually I'm super excited to get that communication, that verbal communication, to be able to go back and forth. They're competing with Siri and things like that, by the way. That's why they're kind of enhancing that capability. But in a nutshell, that's going to be what's new so far in ChatGPT. Okay. So, Aria, did we have any questions that I can answer for anybody today?
Hi, Jolynn.
Hi.
That was an incredible hour. Thank you so much. You packed a
Jam
lot
packed.
in, I will say. I don't have any questions, but for those that are on the call here, please feel free to throw a question or two in if you have any. We'll give it another minute. If I could use an emoji, I think it would be the head explosion emoji for
Mm-hmm.
myself, because there's a
Yep.
lot of information and like you said, it's evolving daily right now.
Yes.
Not just ChatGPT, but this whole
AI.
AI, yeah,
Yeah.
generative models that are out there. So
Yes.
I'm getting a lot of great comments in the chat. You're all welcome. Jolynn, thank you. Did a great job
Absolutely.
today. Really appreciate it. I think while we're waiting, if there's anything coming in, I think we'll quickly wrap up here because we're on the hour, just past 12 o'clock. Um, as mentioned, I'd like to thank you again, Jolynn.
Mm-hmm.
For any training related questions, please feel free to reach out to us at training@smartdolphins.com and visit our website to catch up on our upcoming events. For any other business inquiries, please contact us at info@smartdolphins.com. And a quick reminder on the upcoming events. Again, we've got Cybersecurity Critical Fundamentals Thursday, June 27th at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. SharePoint and Teams intranet and team pages Thursday, July 11th at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. And Microsoft Teams meetings, What's New, Thursday, July 18th at, you guessed it, 11 a.m. Pacific Time. Please visit our website for details and registration. I'll have a quick last gander here. Jolynn, no questions.
Okay.
And on behalf of Smart Dolphins, thank you for your time and thank you for everyone for joining us today. Wishing you all a wonderful afternoon. Thanks so much.
Thanks.